Let's go to 3:30. I found online that some people call this the Cascade Clash.
Yes.
Is that a real name? I've never heard that name before in my life.
I have not heard it in conversation ever.
3:30 CBS. It is your Oregon Ducks, a 6.5 point favorite on the road at Washington. When I saw this point spread, the eyebrows went up. Then they went down. And then I scratched the hair on my chinny chin, Dan. I don't get this point spread.
Okay.
I don't understand this point spread. It seems too low to me. So is there like a letdown going on with Oregon after the USC game? Is there hidden strength on the Washington side, maybe that I wasn't picking up when I did my research? Why is this point spread where it's at?
I think some uncertainty around where Oregon's at health-wise on offense with the offensive line. Now, I kind of expect the tackles to play for this Oregon offensive line. The right tackle missed a little bit of time, but came back last week against USC. Certainly, the left tackle was out for a good chunk of that SC game. He got hurt, I think, in the Minnesota game early. And they lost their starting center, who's a big deal on this Oregon offensive line that's been very, very good, if not excellent this season in protecting Dante Moore outside of that Indiana game. That would be the lone exception. And then dealing with the receiver injuries. And obviously it worked out really well, but that was at home. It was against a USC defense that hasn't been great this season, and Washington's defense hasn't been great this season. But the game's in Seattle. It's a difficult place to play. Obviously, it's been a recent house of horrors for Oregon. They dispatched of Washington pretty easily last season in Eugene, but it's a tough road environment. Emotions are going to be running high. Dante Moore, I think, has improved to a pretty impressive point this season, but it's still a road spot for him where he's had some down moments this season. Not really on the road. The down moment was against Indiana, and the Wisconsin game was in the rain, and he got hurt and knocked out of that one. But I think there's still a little bit of question about how he's going to perform when these lights are bright against a good Washington team that may be able to score some points. The Oregon defense, though, is the reason why this line is a little bit odd, because Washington against good defenses this season, which has been Wisconsin, Ohio State, and who am I missing right now? Oh, Michigan.
Michigan, yeah.
I don't think they've gotten to double digits in those games. Or
no,
they've scored a touchdown in those games at most.
Yeah, in the games against Ohio State and Michigan in particular, Washington scored a combined 13 points. They lost 24-6 to Ohio State and 24-7 to Michigan.
And the Wisconsin game, if they got to double digits, it was barely, right?
Right.
Yeah, you can fact check the final score on that one. So that's the question to me, is what does Oregon's defensive line do against a Washington offensive line that in those big moments has struggled to protect Damon Williams, who's obviously incredible athletically and can make something out of nothing when he needs to. But then you couple that with a beat-up starting running back in Jonah Coleman, who barely played last week, and obviously for resting reasons, Denzel Boston has beat up their best receiver. I wonder how many points Washington is going to be able to score if Oregon's defense is locked in. And I think they will be, because this Washington game is a big deal. So I don't see Washington getting to 17, 20 points in this one. Again, if Oregon's defense is locked in, which I imagine they will be. So I tend to think it's going to be something like 30-13, 34-17, something in there, just because this Washington offense hasn't been built for a ton of success against the best teams from the inside out. And the Washington defense, which I think is okay, hasn't performed well against these good teams. And so I just think there's too much from Oregon. There's a ton on the line for Oregon. Washington can certainly be up for playing spoiler, but I kind of think you need the dudes on both sides of the ball. And I just don't think Washington has that in this moment. Seattle's a tough place to play. I think we're close at the half. As a viewing public, but I'm going to say Oregon runs away with this in the second half, forces a turnover or two, and quiets the crowd.
Yeah, Washington has good numbers, but has beaten exactly one FBS team with a winning record, and that's Illinois, which is 7-4. I already mentioned the stat about what they have done offensively against other top 10 caliber defenses in Ohio State and Michigan. So we'll see what they can do against an Oregon defense that's sort of in between those two. I do think the Washington defense is good enough to keep Oregon from running away with it, though.
Okay.
And, so I think that kind of keeps it in check. I also think the Oregon defense can just overpower this offense. And again, that would be more of a continuing trend given what we have seen with Washington against some other comparable defenses. I think Oregon eventually wins this game. I think it's going to end up being something like 28-13. You know, I don't think it's going to be a runaway train or anything like that, but I do think Oregon's going to get the dub. I also think that this is the type of situation where Dan Lanning is going to want to try for style points if he can get them. I don't think he can because I think this Washington defense is good enough. But if Dan Lanning has an opportunity, it wouldn't surprise me if he goes for it, because this is a dude who is absolutely built for any kind of hostile rivalry.
Yes.
This is the guy you want on your sidelines if you are playing in a game like this where there's just a modicum of hostility. You will take Dan Lanning on your sidelines. He's the type of dude who's going to get the boys fired up.
I wonder how much Jed Fish will try to throw the ball up and hope for a PI and use last week's USC as a blueprint, their opportunities and opportunistic nature
Still on this, are
those
we?
penalties. I just wonder if they're beat up at receiver. We'll see. No, this one should be fun. Dan Lanning will be up for it. It's a letdown spot for Oregon. I guess the good news, if you're an Oregon fan, just situationally, is Washington played a late night game in LA. So it's not like Washington's coming off of a bye. It's not like Washington's coming off of a road game in which they're just sleeping in their own beds and getting to start their standard game planning week. So it is not a short week, but a shorter week than Oregon has in terms of prep. So there's something maybe there, but I think Oregon's the better team, and I think they have more ways to win. And so Washington's track record against quality defense isn't great, so going Oregon.
I also should point out, again, if I'm being honest, if we're trying to be complete with our coverage here.
Please.
Talked about it a lot on yesterday's episode. Maybe Lane Kiffin having his head in a different spot, maybe a different zip code altogether, depending on how that coaching search goes down. The current betting favorite at plus 110 to be the next head coach at the University of Florida is one Jed Fish.
Really?
Current betting favorite for whatever that is worth to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's worth a whole lot. But Lane right now is the betting favorite at minus 175 to be the next head coach at LSU. Jed Fish at Florida. Penn State with Bob Chesney. John Sumrall at Auburn. Eric Morris at Arkansas. Tommy Rees at UCLA.
Whoa.
Oklahoma State with Alex Golesh, and Cal with Tosh Lupoy.
Okay. Alex Golesh, Oklahoma State. Interesting. Okay. I'm sure these change. These are going to be
That
fluid.
is from betonline.ag, not a sponsor. Maybe they could be, but
I don't know.
for whatever that's worth to you, whatever those betting things are worth to you, just throwing that out there.
Interesting. Okay.
We're recording this on Tuesday midday. It's going to change 8 times by the weekend, but
yeah,
food for thought.